called to do
live,
it.
guys?
No, I'm not sure. Are we?
Yeah,
Yes,
we're live.
we are.
We're live for 4 seconds, 5 seconds. We're live.
Well, I guess there was a delay in the live stream, and the intro. So
Yeah.
what the hell? Next time. Oh
People
God.
are here
Well,
to see us. The intro's cool, but they really want to engage in the conversation. So,
I know, but the intro sets the tone.
well, do you want to play it again?
Anyways.
Go ahead, play it again,
No,
Sam.
I'm not going to play it again. We're already
No,
here.
please don't.
Yeah, we'll say good morning, everyone. Good
And
afternoon.
Happy
I'm
New
sorry.
Year. Woo!
Yep. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Happy New Year. Welcome back to another episode of The Turning Point. I think it's been almost a month and a half, if I'm not mistaken, since we last spoke. But we have done our private calls every now and then. I think many of us just taking the time to be with our families, enjoy life's simple pleasures. And of course, everything we've been through, the patience, the hard work, I think it reminds us to cherish time and family and friends. That is really the greatest treasure and commodity that you'll ever have. So a lot to talk about, and a lot has happened over the last few weeks, and we have a lot to catch up on. But first and foremost, I think it's just important to clarify that there are so many multi-layered military psyops and intelligence operations that are unfolding in this country already. And it's interesting because this is happening right before Trump takes office. I'm sure many of you have noticed, like what we saw with New Orleans, and there are just so many things that parallel to what we saw in the operations that modeled after the 9/11. And I think this is essentially 9/11 2.0 where we're going. So I just urge everybody, first and foremost, to be cautious to the information you're getting, what you're listening to, because there is massive marketing campaigns and large sums of money that are being pumped into shaping these narratives, of course, through the mainstream media and even on platforms like X now. So they're spreading very distorted views about some of the global events that are happening. And we've been on this channel shadow banned many times for covering certain topics. So I just wanted to keep that very brief and just everyone be mindful to all the lies that are being told, especially about the other side of the world, to which most people are not familiar with. So one more thing I want to add to this, and then we'll get into the financial landscape. There have been also in the past orchestrated attacks funded by intelligence operations. This is not a secret anymore. There have been documented evidence. For instance, if you guys remember Hillary Clinton, she testified before the Senate and mentioned clearly that they funded the very same organizations that have, attacked the U.S., for instance. So I just encourage everyone to do their research of, for instance, what ISIS really is and its origins, for instance. And I think you're going to uncover more of those connections that we cannot speak about. So just do your own research. Be careful what you're listening to. So as far as we go into the financial landscape, Trump's main objective, and this is something I did want to talk about as he prepares to take office, from the moment he was elected, I actually started researching very privately the entire cabinet and, of course, what their background is, what they intend to do. And some good news, most of them are pro-crypto. And I'm not entirely comfortable with the entire direction that they're taking as far as some of the other geopolitical events, but they are focusing on deregulation, particularly in the banking sector, which certainly caught my attention because it aligns with some of the broader global agendas that are unfolding. And for years on this channel, and of course, together at the Turning Point, we've forecasted that 2025 was going to be the year for regulation, which of course ties us into the ISO 20022 compliance deadline for all major central banks. It also aligns with what Trump's push for deregulation and even the strategic moves that are against the BRICS nations, which is urging confidence in the US dollar again. And at the same time, while that announcement was taking place, we saw the global institutional regulation for RLUSD, which is the digital dollar, essentially. Some people call it a CBDC at this point because it is a tokenized version of the dollar, but it's a stable coin that was issued on the XRP ledger. And we discussed in 2021 by the World Bank that more details have emerged, and they certainly have emerged, showing that the stable coins are aligning also with what the BRICS and their plans for a commodity-backed currency by tokenizing physical assets. So most of us already know that Ripple and XRP are at the forefront of all this transformation. The BRICS institutions are openly discussing layering RippleNet protocols onto their payment rails and infrastructure to utilize XRP to bridge financial ecosystems, currencies, stablecoins, and tokenized assets, which of course positions XRP as a critical component of where this is all going. So I'll kind of leave it at that. I have so much more I want to say. It's been such a long time, but I'll give everybody else the option to speak. I just want to clarify that as we rapidly go into this digital world and with money, it's clear that a global wealth transfer is certainly underway. And the infrastructure that's being built today is some of the technologies that most of you guys have the opportunity to invest in before this all goes mainstream, essentially. So I'll leave it at that. And I know I took a lot of time, so thank you guys.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, I want to just say Happy New Year to everybody out there, of course, and also to you guys. I mean, it has been a long time since we've been able to actually do this, and you're right. A lot of big things are happening in the space and are happening rapidly. I think a lot quicker than what most people really do realize, because a lot of people are focused in, they're zoned into the day-to-day price action, but they're not really zoned in or locked into what's going on underneath. The undercurrents of what's going on is so vitally important, and we brought that up over the last year. And certainly you're right, Versan, about the whole regulation piece. I think this year that is going to get totally solidified. We're watching that in the EU, MiCA regulations affecting how USDT Tether. I think that Tether unraveling over this next year, I think that could very well take place. I don't think it's a coincidence that RLUSD has sought and obtained approval right at the point where you're watching Tether not even be able to hold a peg to the US dollar probably for the last 6 weeks. Major resignations. Their lawyer, who has been with them for over a decade, just kind of walking out the door, no real explanation. Things like that. I do believe FIT 21, Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act, which received House approval last year, 70 Democrats crossing the floor to support a Republican-led bill. And if you read the bill, you're going to find out in there is a lot of definition about what digital assets are, what would classify as a digital asset security, what is a commodity, all that kind of stuff. Even talks about self-storage issues in there. But with the Republican-led Senate, I think that's going to get approved. And of course, with a very pro-crypto administration, I think it's going to get signed into law. That's going to have massive impacts in this space. Of course, when you got institutions that are, their fiduciary responsibility has kept them away from direct ownership of these digital assets. But that kind of clarity is going to probably open the floodgates to that, where it's not only going to be through the utilization of ETFs, right? But that they can actually hold these assets on the books themselves. And I'm talking pension plans, things like that. Of course, you see organizations like MicroStrategy, holding, and of course, Tesla and all that already holding Bitcoin and various other assets. XRP, I believe, we're seeing RLUSD already showing the liquidity support for XRP like we forecasted it would, and in contrary to all the FUD that we were hearing. Remember, all the FUD was that RLUSD was going to replace XRP. And on and on and on. And that Ripple was just rugging everybody. Well, that turned out to be an absolute false narrative, of course. And certainly that was before the election. And on election day, we were at 52 cents. Since that time, we've held over $2 with some serious strength. Got up to 290. I think today we're at 239, 240. That right there speaks volumes of where we were at, because last go around 2020 to 2021, XRP went from that low of 17.5 cents to the $1.97. But that was a very short-lived $1.97. We're talking maybe a week or two. Here we are holding $2 for what, 5-6 weeks practically? That's amazing. And I think that is just showing us the new floors for some of these things of where they could potentially go. So, yep, I agree 100%. Regulation is going to be a big powerhouse in 2025. I think we're going to see Look, in Canada, I heard that this week Trudeau is probably going to resign. They're in Canada, they're looking to go more conservative. Over in Europe, we're moving away from the globalist trend, roughly, in terms of like, the narrative and that. And I think that is going to have big impacts as well. Look at Italy. Italy was a front runner with turning away from that whole globalist ideology with, the election of their prime minister. I think it's a prime minister over there, but anyway, just phenomenal change there. So I agree with that. I do think we're going to see some major change with regulation, that clarity, and certainly look, the banking sector. We, like you had pointed out so clearly, XRP as an ecosystem, is, and you see distributed ledger technology, and you look at the infrastructure for real world asset tokenization, which is what this global economy is moving into massively. Well, there's only a few ecosystems that can handle that kind of stuff. XRP certainly is one. Hedera Hashgraph, I have to say, is another one there. XLM, of course, another one there. You're seeing a lot of Trade 5 with XDC. And of course, who knows? Maybe we'll see an outlier like SHX come in and really pick up some speed as well. So there's a lot of change coming, and I think it's going to be coming really quick, like you said.
And before I let my brother speak, I do want to explain to a lot of people there has been a lot of noise about RLUSD. So just to give some icing to what you said, XRP, the fact that RLUSD could crush XRP, and this is a comment that I see frequently. It's complete nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm not trying to be aggressive here, but it is kind of the dumbest thing I've heard. There are too many people who have entered the space recently who are certainly parroting information without understanding the facts. So they're finding, okay, so RLUSD is a stable coin. It's plain and simple. It's not an investment. I've seen people say, where can I buy it? Or should I buy RLUSD instead of XRP? That doesn't make any sense. Okay. It's a place for institutions to park their money. And what's interesting about it, when you get it, it actually is, its value is derived from the XRP itself, because it's actually built on the XRP ledger. So XRP is essentially the liquidity tool and settlement mechanism behind it. So without XRP, RLUSD wouldn't even exist or have a purpose. So it's an aggregate of XRP's value. So no, RLUSD will not crush XRP. In fact, it entirely relies on XRP to maintain the value. Now that
it relies on the XRP ledger for sure. And definitely, even for financial institutions, it's a short-term store of value to be able to park their, and in the process of real world asset tokenization, it is, like you said, it's the liquidity rails. It is the liquidity rails. It provides the liquidity that they need, because of course they're looking at the backing. RLUSD, interestingly enough, is backed by US dollar assets, including treasuries. Well, isn't it kind of interesting and coincidental, of course, that US treasuries are now being tokenized on the XRP ledger at the same time that you get RLUSD, who is backed by US treasuries? I mean, come on, guys. I mean, you got to.
It just gives more value to the XRP.
More value. Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm going to let Vendel go first. I know Vendel had some stuff to do later.
No. Everything you guys said is absolutely correct. It's RLUSD is like the bridge to get on the bridge, basically. So because if you want to move money into the crypto blockchain ecosystem, you have to move that US dollar, that fiat currency, from a bank or financial institution into the crypto world and landscape. And to do that, from traditional finance to the future of finance, you got to go into a stable coin. Kind of like if you want to, buy some cryptocurrency on the ETH network, for example, you have to buy, you have to use ETH as a gas fee,
But in this case, the gas fee is next to nothing. I kind of likened it like the XRP ledger are the rails, XRP is the engine, and RLUSD are the cars.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a better one. The XRP is the plumbing. That's it.
There you go.
Yeah. So basically, it's just going to increase liquidity and bring on more inflow and more capital onto the network. ultimately. That's basically what it's going to serve as. And it's, if you want to buy any cryptocurrency the way it is today, you have to buy a stable coin and then convert that stable coin into currency.
As a trading pair. And I think
Yes,
RLUSD will get even more effective as a trading pair.
Yeah, and I think it's no coincidence that they, they got sued, they got held back for all this nonsense, delayed price suppression, and first one to go through all this regulatory, gymnastics and barriers, and then now the RLUSD comes out, and at the same time when Trump is supposedly, pro crypto and appointing all these cabinet members that are pro crypto, and RLUSD is, regulated, and this is all, it's so obvious, you guys. This is all by design. There's a plan within the plan. They have a big agenda here, and it's not going anywhere. I mean, I just want to say, for the past 5 years, all of us, we've been right on track. Everything we said happened. We said smart contracts are in the playbook. We said the lawsuit was nonsense. That happened to be true. We said stable coins are eventually coming. We said this in 2022, 2023. Here we are today. I mean, this is the path it's going down. It's so obvious if you pay attention to the intricate details, and not just what they're saying, because, they'll bullshit you all they need to. This is a matter of national security. They can't just say everything and divulge all that information. They have to be strategic with the narrative and what they say. But again, if you pay attention to the actions and what they're doing, what they're building in the background, the collaborations, the licenses,
it's undeniable.
It's undeniable. Absolutely. Yeah. So 2025 is going to be an extremely extraordinary year for XRP. And even more extraordinary if you own it, if you hold it.
Agreed.
I think it's just going through the stages, the process, and this is just how it's going to play out. Of course, we don't know how things are going to manifest exactly, but we know the direction it's going in, and we've been all right on track for a while now, and I don't see that changing. Everything just keeps lining up more and more, just keep getting closer and closer. So if you experience, volatility, crashes, all kinds of negative fear in the media, narratives. I mean, for God's sakes, even if they came out and said, hey, Ripple's getting another lawsuit, the RLUSD is not going to be delisted, they didn't meet certain criteria, I'm going to buy even more than I ever did before, because for me, that's positive news. You see, the billionaires we hang out, they're all interested in negative news, because they're like, when can we get a discount? When can we get good? So that's how we got to look at it. And that goes for everybody watching and participating in this new asset class.
Yeah. Very nicely said. Yeah, spot on. Edo.
As a matter of fact, if Brett Garlinghouse comes live tomorrow on CNN and tells everyone to sell their XRP, I guess I'm going to be buying more XRP. That's how unshakable we have become on this year. So there's a lot to unpack. I would start saying that before even David got on the call, because I had a private chat with Versan and Vandal, and I was telling them that since the last time we live streamed, our wealth has increased an average of 500%. And I think that's extraordinary. And I see that it also replicates to our audience, because basically they have been following us, they have been doing their research, and the real winners in 2025 have been the utility tokens. So there has been a massive shift on the narrative, where in the previous bull run, sometimes you could see different category of assets that were outperforming the utility tokens. And right now, if you see what are the top gainers on the top 100 coins by market cap, there you have XRP, you have XLM, you have XDC, Velo, Algorand, so HBAR. So our tokens are doing great. And remember how many times we have said with Bitcoin trading at $60,000 and XRP at 60 cents, and there was this massive propaganda for people to actually get on Bitcoin. And we said 1,000 times, if Bitcoin goes to 100,000, well, congratulations, you did a 2x from your initial investment, and you had XRP at sorry for the language, at 9 cents. And you just see that we had like 500%, 600% increases. And I'm just talking about XRP, XLM, and there are more digital assets. Velo is one of them that I still believe is going to come to the top 100. So there's a lot of space for Velo as well. And the whole point I'm trying to make here is that simultaneously we made a lot of money, and I really mean it. But in the same time, the global economy is not improving. And I have this feeling that as much as we are getting richer, it doesn't really mean that life is getting easier. And we are a tiny percentage of the world's population that are invested in digital assets. Yesterday, I made a video about that, and I used as my search the Ledger CEO. So I watched him in Paris, and he was talking about how much percent of the global population is invested in crypto. So it's estimated that 500 million people in the entire planet are invested in digital assets, but actually only 0.25% do self-custody. So that's about 20 million people who actually are invested in crypto, because let's face it, if you just have your cryptos on exchanges, you are not really entitled to say, I own cryptocurrencies. So looking from this perspective, we are a tiny minority of the population, and our wealth is actually increasing exponentially. But it doesn't really mean that everything is getting more cheap for us, right? So what about the average Joe right now? The average person that's fighting inflation, that's trying to live off a 9 to 5, that's actually trying to somehow escape this rat race. So I think the window is very closing for this opportunity. And I also did a video on how easy for the majority to us to actually be a top 10% XRP holder. It would take you about $2,000 if you would to invest in XRP 6 months ago, and there you have, you are a top 10% holder. Right now, it takes actually $6,000 to be on the top 10%
Isn't that amazing?
wallet.
Wow.
So,
yeah, well, as
that most, go ahead, Versan.
I'll keep it very short. I have this bad habit of dragging my sentence on forever. See, I'm already doing it. Okay, so as more pressure builds on the system, you're going to see more pressure build for the appreciation of these assets that are solving real world problems and at the same time contributing to the liquidity issue. Because underneath all of it, it's really the fact that our economy depends on cheap money. And that means we have to keep printing money. And that's what Vendel was saying earlier. They're going to print money in 2025. You just wait and see when Trump gets in office. He's going to print all this money, give the illusion that the economy is looking better. However, every time they're printing money, they're taking a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of purchasing power to every other dollar already in circulation, already in existence. And that's why the prices keep going up. The truth is, there's no such thing as inflation. It's that your currency is devaluing. And did you know that fiat is a Latin term for currency by force, which is very interesting. And this has been forced upon us. So this is also why it's important to own physical gold, because you can preserve your wealth at the same time. What I do is I take profits, I get into cash, so I can purchase physical assets like gold and silver with no digital trace of ownership. And that's how I preserve my wealth. Now, people will argue saying, well, you're losing money. Well, in the grand scheme of things, you're actually not losing money. You're actually preserving what you're about to lose, right?
Because it's real. I want to share something if I could. If I could just present something. I want to share my screen here. And
sure. Yeah.
What I want to show is this. So this is what I had. I don't know if this is posted here, but this is just out as of today, 4 a.m. And I read this report, and going off of what Edo was saying, I was talking about the very thing that, look, majority of people around the world. Now, Germany is a massive powerhouse. Look what they did with their economy after World War II, being decimated as they were, and built up Europe's massive, most strongest economy, really. And yet, on average, most Germans are poorer now than they have been in a long, long time. And here, I'm just going to stop sharing that. But that information is totally, you're 100% right. Most people, look, we are the small minority. We are so blessed as far as I'm concerned. If you're in this digital asset space, you are so blessed to be in it. However, even in this space, a lot of people treat it like they're going to the casino and hoping just to throw a few bucks at this and a few bucks at that, not being strategic and all this and that. But the reality is, the majority of these nations, so the ECB, you got Christine Lagarde. Come on, Christine Lagarde knows all about the transition from where we are into this digital economy. She was the head of the IMF before she was the head of the ECB. And these people know for a fact. And who do you see rubbing shoulders for Christine Lagarde and all that? Well, you see the likes of Brad Garlinghouse doing that on major scale. And they understand. She's, in fact, you cited Ripple as being an example for the new economy and what it's going to be. And now in Europe, it's illegal to transact in anything over $3,000 in fiat. That ought to tell you something right there. I mean, it's just crazy. But the average people, there is a disconnect absolutely from the economy and from the market. Absolute disconnect. Now, a lot of people say, how can that be? Well, I'll tell you what, when we were all going through this, back there at that time, everybody stopped producing, everybody stopped transporting, all the service businesses were down, everyone's out banging their pots and pans. And yet the world went on one of the biggest secular bull runs they had ever seen. How's that possible when the economy is grinding to a screeching halt? Well, it's because central banks. I mean, let's lay the blame where it is. The central banks are intentionally imploding the current system. You cannot print $1 trillion every 75 days now. $1 trillion added to the balance sheet. And to your point, Versan, to not see the valuation of goods go up, not because the value of those goods are gone up, but the dollar has gone down. Now, today we saw a little bit of bounce in the dollar, but let's be honest, it is absolutely manipulated.
That's correct. And if I may add some more flavor to this, we're going to just keep going back and forth like this. This right here, what I have displayed is the M2 money supply. If you look at what happened here in 2019, actually, it did not get a lot of coverage when the repo markets failed. Then it came January, February, and the next thing you know, they started turning that printing machine on. They created a pandemic, or I don't know if I should say that, but they created this problem, an event, a black swan event, where they needed to print all this money. And that's why we saw extreme inflation in 2022. I don't know about you guys. I had to shut down one of my stores in 2022 because of the inflation. I took all those profits and I invested it into digital assets. Thank God. That did change my life. But as you can see now, if we get closer, as Trump's tenure begins, the M2 money supply is going out right at the time where we might be at war, where we might have
another one of these.
Another black swan event where they're going to print all this money. And I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not doom and gloom, but the wealth gap is going to continue to widen as there's no such thing as trickle down economics. The wealth always trickles upwards to the 1% and 2%ers as they create these illusions of situations that are going to be solutions. But this is all predetermined.
Of power. It's a consolidation of power.
It's a consolidation of the banking system, because the end game here, ladies and gentlemen, is a one world central bank. Whether Ripple plays a big role in this, and I know they do, that's yet to be seen. But this is all being released by the mainstream in a very coordinated fashion that aligns with the direction of the geopolitical landscape, the crumbling infrastructure of the monetary system, and the financial world, how it's evolving with the digitization. And some people ask about the QFS, right? Quantum financial system. What is the QFS? I'll simplify it for a lot of people who are curious. The future is going to be powered by quantum computers. We can already see the direction of this is heading. It's going to be surveyed and governed by artificial intelligence, and it's going to be scaled through blockchain technology. That's essentially what your QFS is. It's none of that other hype stuff out there when you really break it down. So the next big topic I think we should discuss is RLUSD and Tether USDT. We see the financial world evolving very fast. At the center of this transformation, there's the clash, of course, between compliance and risk. Many people do not talk enough about it, and it's becoming a mainstream topic. Tether, USDT. It's been serving as the dominant stablecoin for all these times, facilitating billions and billions of dollars in daily transactions across the globe. While on the other hand, you have this emerging player, RLUSD. It is the only regulated institutional digital asset. And like my brother said, how they sued Ripple. They did that intentionally, ladies and gentlemen, because if you look at the history of the SEC, they go after anybody disrupting big business and the machine, as they would say. And that's what they've done with Microsoft, with Amazon, with Tesla, with SpaceX, with Apple, with Google.
They want their piece of that pie, right?
Of course, but they sued Ripple
it.
because it was disrupting the monetary system. It was too effective, too efficient, and they couldn't allow that to play out the way it needed to. So what they did was they sued them to buy time, to position themselves, and of course build infrastructure around it. That's ETHgate, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't seen the documentary, you should certainly check it out. It's very informative, and it covers all this stuff in detail. And now that they're about to bring Trump in, and again, Trump's agenda is to deregulate the banking system intentionally so they can bridge the crypto sector with the banking sector. And they're going to be the ones offering these custodianship services. I've already read this from JP Morgan's paper, and this is going to bring regulation, hence the key appointees of the Trump administration all being pro-crypto. Then you see institutional money follow shortly. And that's when these things are going to blow up. So a lot is going to happen in 2025.
We've seen a lot of institutional adoption thus far. I mean, when you think of the billions that are traded in XRP alone on a 24-hour basis, well, that is not retail. I mean, that is not retail. That is a lot of institutional players that are involved in this space in a powerful way. You got lobbyist groups galore. And even these people that have come out and naysayed this, they're right in there like crazy. I mean, you had Larry Fink, it was like, 2017, 2018 or something, he was coming out saying, well, none of my clients are really even interested in blockchain. Yet they're one of the major pushers of an ETF, Bitcoin ETF, and other multiple ETFs now. He himself coming out and saying they're going to tokenize securities. That's the evolution of the markets. I always bring this one up, but the Depository Trust and Clearing Corp, trillions of dollars of transactional volume a day go through that thing in settling trades. They themselves are utilizing distributed ledger technology to do that. And their XDC is a big part of that because they signed up with R3 Core to facilitate that. R3 Core is using XRP, XDC to do that. We're watching the infrastructure being laid all around us, but most people are kept intentionally oblivious to it. And the measurement, like what Edo was saying earlier, in terms of like the percentages of people globally that have exposure to this digital asset space, it's so ridiculously small that it's insane. And when you think of like the debt market, they are going to tokenize debt. I'm telling you that right now. I would be not surprised if by the end of this year, beginning of next year, you're going to start seeing tokenization of debt. That in and of itself is over a $300 trillion market, the debt market. The debt market, guys, is the beating heart, of all these markets. It begins and ends with the debt market because it begins and ends with the central banks. And that's why. Central banks, you have to remember, they don't go out and get money. They create it. And they do it at will. It's literally been minted by thin air. And of course, they have all these measurements that they utilize in order to, kind of like their monetary policy and manipulation and all that kind of stuff. But all of these central banks, if you go out and if you research their websites, you're going to find out that what Versan just communicated is 100% on target. And they have been doing this for multiple years in advance, preparing the world for a digital economy that will be, the QFS will be quantum computed. It will be, monitored by AI. You will have a governing body, more than likely something like the IMF, I suspect, where they will kind of bring all this under one roof, and a global, I don't know what you would, a super currency, I guess is what I'll call it. Could and more than likely be backed by real world assets like, gold. Central banks are buying gold like no tomorrow for sure. And but they're going to need that. Why are they going to need it? Because the current system is going to absolutely collapse in front of our face in a way that most people can't even begin to comprehend. And I do believe it'll be one of the most devastating blows to humanity that the world has ever seen. And few people will actually weather that storm. I think those of us in this digital asset space have a good chance of weathering the storm. But it's going to be because people are going to beg for a solution. They're not going to have to force this on people. Like this whole idea,
just be ready.
They manufacture consent.
It's problem reaction solution. They've been doing this forever.
And they know that they can consolidate wealth and power by doing that. And so the people that are already have the power, they're going to want to keep that power. This whole, it's an illusion. Because I'll tell you what, you can go to your bank right now and you try to withdraw everything you have in the bank. Let's say you had a few thousand, 10, 20, 40,000. Good luck. It's not going to be as easy as you think.
It wasn't. I pulled out some money the other day, and they asked me all these questions, and I'm friends with the branch manager there, and I said, "What the hell what does it matter, to you?"
Exactly.
Well, they wanted to know where I was putting it, so
and who is they? It's not just the bank. It's ultimately it's the Federal Reserve in the United States, and of course you got FinCEN, financial crimes. That's civil enforcement and all that crimes and all that. Well, they say it's for all AML, but come on, guys. They blame distributed ledger technology as being a utilization of nefarious organizations to use it to funnel money laundering. That is just such nonsense. And the
US dollar is the biggest one.
Yeah, the reason it's nonsense is every transaction's trackable. So
they're demonizing crypto while adopting the technology. And
what's being used to funnel all that? Cash. Let's be honest.
Yes. Yeah. I think I'm so sorry to cut you guys off. I have so much I want to share with the audience.
Go ahead. Go for it.
This right here is the crypto volatility index. And what I noticed was very interesting. I shared it with a few friends, including my cousin, Akram Shaban. I should, by the way, clarify, Akram Shaban actually works for the Black Swan Capitalist team. He's family to us, so I would appreciate if everyone would support him also. But this right here is the crypto volatility index. And what I noticed is while the market was actually dipping like a week ago, people were buying. Like while the market was tanking, people were buying like large amounts, like smart money of crypto. Yeah. And you could see this. It was incredible. And I started thinking like I'm in there too, but very small, right, compared to these whales. So yeah.
What I did want to say is, so in 2025, the bulk of the Treasury debt refinancing is due. So, the Federal Reserve, they're forecasting, they're going to do a about 2 times rate cuts in 2025. But I think they're going to lie and say whatever they can and keep rates elevated as high as possible. But when the bulk of the Treasury debt needs to be refinanced and it's due in 2025, they're going to have no choice because, rates around 4% are still pretty high for them to refinance. And that's the main reason I believe that there's going to be some event that takes place as a catalyst in 2025. Because when an event takes place, most likely artificial, engineered, now they'll have a pretext for them to justify taking emergency measures and cutting rates. But when that happens, there's enormous amount of stimulus and money printing that comes along with that. And again, it's not a coincidence that it happens to be in 2025, just right before we're pretty much entering altcoin season, and the global M2 money supply is starting to grow slowly.
Yeah.
So,
and it goes back to those
very high probability. Very high probability. This is going to happen in 2025. So any volatility you see, little dips, pullbacks, this is just typical price action. It's nothing to be concerned about, nothing to be fearful of. Just buying opportunities. But even if there is a crash and we happen to be spot on, which I think we will be, that will be a very good buying opportunity as well, because again, they will print an enormous amount of money, and there's various methods of doing it with the central banks. In 2020, they didn't only issue credit into the system through loans to businesses, but they also did the stimulus checks. So there was more than one form of stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2025, the bulk of the treasuries have to be refinanced, the debt. So they're going to have to print money to do that, because they can't afford it with current GDP. So, they can't afford it. And the national debt will increase. The interest will increase, but they'll have to print money to cover that. And as a result, prices of everything will likely increase. And when I say prices, I mean inflation will likely increase 6 to 12 months after that, because there's a lag effect that takes place. It doesn't happen overnight. But yeah, these asset prices are going to start increasing significantly higher in 2025. And as David said, they're going to continue increasing their balance sheet. And that's basically what that is. So in simple terms, they're going to print more money, and asset prices will continue to rise. And if you're interested in creating wealth, or at least getting ahead financially, it's not going to be in saving US dollars or fiat currency in your bank account. You're not going to make it, because the amount of money printing that will continue is only going to continue to increase.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more currency debasement.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a time and place for all of this. I think 2025 is going to be that breaking point, or that turning point, no pun intended. I do want to answer a question before letting Edo speak. I want to hear more from Edo. But somebody asked about the XRP again, and a way to maybe simplify a bit is that the true value of XRP will lie in its network. And again, their network doesn't just facilitate the transactions. It enables a completely interoperable system that links digital assets, provides liquidity, financial ecosystems. I feel like I'm repeating myself all the time, but it's perfect for a tokenized economy. And with a finite supply of 100 billion, to which portions of those are burned with each use, the tokenomics naturally will push the price higher as the adoption continues. So to meet the institutional demand that has not been recognized by either the mainstream or by most of the people who are investing in it, the value will have to significantly increase, not to just 10,000 per token, for instance. It all depends on how this unfolds. If we have a global liquidity crisis, a global financial crisis, then indeed it would need to climb to a very high price to meet to service that liquidity needs and those institutional demands. So it does have the capacity to handle trillions of dollars in daily flows if necessary. Edo, I haven't heard from you. Yeah.
I was processing all the information that you guys were sharing. We haven't spoken for quite a long time live, so I was just absorbing the information. And well, I would state some facts here, and I also want to ask you guys a very controversial question. Well, as a matter of fact, if we stop to think what's going to happen from my perspective, when Trump gets in power, I don't think the economical situation is going to change for a better perspective. And that's quite controversial, and Trump's going to simply blame the previous administration for that. I think the damage has been already done. And there's really nothing that Trump as a personality can do to actually fix what's about to come. I also predict millions maybe it's exaggerating, but thousands of layoffs to get started in 2025. And that's going to be filled by artificial intelligence that's going to replace human labor. So that's a very concerning economical change that's happening right now. And that's not only in the US. And well, I traveled almost 10 countries in the last 2 months. Actually, I traveled a lot, and I got to speak with people from all around the world, from South America. Well, I went to actually Central America, I went to Mexico. I went to speak to people in Brazil as well. I was in Turkey. was in Italy. I was a bit of everywhere, and the complaints are general. It's not only one place or the other. So basically, every single fiat currency is getting devaluated. That's not an exclusive problem to the US dollar. It's not a problem also for the euros. It's actually a general problem. So I think it's very unrealistic to think that Trump's going to get in power and magically every problem is going to be fixed. But my question is actually, if we look beyond what's the narrative, do you guys think there is any possible scenario where they will try to actually stop Trump to get on power, and what would be the agenda behind that?
Can I say something? All right.
Yeah. I'll make it short. Sure. Okay. Sorry, guys. I have so much to say. Well, Edo, first of all, you already know this. We're witnessing two major shows. You have one on the surface, that's the political drama to captivate the public attention and to disguise what's happening underneath of it. There's a far more significant and sinister agenda at play, in my opinion. Don't care what other people say in this QFS space, to be honest, because the proof is in the pudding, as you will. They're saying one thing, yet every day something else entirely keeps happening, and more freedoms and liberties are taken away. So the ultimate goal is not the preservation of democracy or the protection of human rights, but the concentration of wealth and power. This is done by freeing up capital the same way they're still doing it, the way they're going to continue to do it for the elite, while stripping away the financial and personal freedoms of the masses while bridging them into a digital system. Okay, so that's what's still happening. The second part to this is that if the fact that Trump got this far means that they're behind that too, to a degree, in my opinion, because if they really wanted him like gone, yeah, they can certainly fabricate something. And they've done this many times before. What happened to John F. Kennedy was really just to send a message, like, don't even try this. And, you know, that's an example. And there are people out there in this space, I see them, some of them in the chats, that say that, oh no, John F. Kennedy is still alive, and that Trump there's a double. And don't get me wrong, I know the CIA has incredible technology. I've seen what they can do. I'm not surprised if something like that is happening to a degree, but I don't believe the right people are still in power. Okay, there's been no proof of this.
May I say something? So this is the fact, okay? You know, we all have our opinions, but there are some things that are just facts, okay? So regardless who gets into office, okay, who takes power, regardless, for the system to keep going, they need to issue debt and credit, okay? So no president, no politician can stop that, all right? This is beyond their control. This is central banks and the elite families that control the monetary system through, it's this Ponzi scheme, debt, slave system we live in, okay? Yes, it will end at some point because every empire has its Babylon moment and comes to a collapse and a new system is put into place. Now, what I was going to say was, regardless of Trump being in office or whether it was still Biden or Kamala, the money printing and issuing credit into the system, which is the debt, the national debt and currency debasement, nobody's fixing that. Trump's not fixing that. As a matter of fact, he's going to print more money because this is not a political thing, okay? This is about keeping the system going. They have to do that to keep the system going, and I'll explain why. Because let's say he does the tariffs, okay? And he says, you know what? We have this Doge thing with Elon Musk to control government spending and make it more efficient. Okay, great. So what they wanted to do is, okay, bring more jobs to the country here, you know, have some tariffs and increase production in the United States here, whether it's industrial or manufacturing, right? So that everything's coming now from the private sector in the United States, homemade in America. Well, that's not fixing inflation. I'll tell you why. Because you have to issue credit. The banks have to give loans to the industrial and manufacturers. Okay? That's money printing. That's currency debasement. My point is, regardless what route they take, whether it's doing tariffs, not doing tariffs, bringing all the manufacturing and industrial firms back to the United States. That ultimately means more issuing of credit, more debt from banks giving out loans, which ultimately comes down to currency debasement. So my point is, regardless who's in office, regardless what people think, the outcome of currency debasement is not changing. It's not changing anytime soon, at least.
No, you're right.
So,
It's a debt-driven economy. It's a debt-driven economy.
Yeah,
And,
so currency debasement is not stopping, and
Yeah.
Trump is not going to fix that. In order to stay in office, you have to keep increasing spending, okay? The biggest expenses, what? Military, Social Security.
Nobody can change it.
Well, hold on, gentlemen.
Change that.
Gentlemen.
And if you stop that, you won't get elected.
You're 100% correct, but what people in this chat are also wondering, they're like, okay, well, we're at this turning point where we're being bridged into a new system. So eventually, this system we're discussing here is coming to a collapse. All right, we all know this. Our listeners know this. We know this. We've been talking about this for years, but we are indeed being bridged to a new system. So the question then becomes like, okay, what can you do to protect yourself? Most of our listeners are already familiar with these strategies. And we'll get back to you, Edo, in a second. But remember, fiat currencies, ladies and gentlemen, are backed by empty promises. And this is where we are starting to see the cracks, and the promises are already failing. Our governments have failed us. People actually have failed themselves to a degree because of the spending habits. But confidence will collapse. So again, the gold standard, sure, it was abandoned, but I believe, guys, and I've seen enough evidence to confirm this, to your point, Edo, that the gold standard was abandoned temporarily, 40 plus years, to really consolidate wealth, because what they did was gave complete control to the central banks to issue as much money as they wanted to without having the responsibility, which gold kept governments in check, to build the military industrial complex in order to protect this very mechanism we're talking about here.
Right.
And that's how they've stolen the wealth. And now that they've almost accomplished it, they're bridging us into a new system. But what's interesting, this two-tier system, there's central bank money and there's private money. People want two things from digital assets. They want a digital store of value that represents a physical store of value like gold, which I still believe XRP will have some relationship to gold. We were early on this before that they were going to tokenize physical gold reserves on the XRP ledger. Now they're allowing this very slowly, again, being strategically released. The other one is an accounting mechanism where people can actually do transactions. That's private money, ladies and gentlemen. This has already been talked about by the Bank for International Settlements. And I've put many videos up, or like shorts that confirm this, tweets that confirm it to a degree. And you guys just have to put the rest together yourself. But gold will certainly have a role in this new system. So like Mindell said, as the system collapses and we go into a new system, there will be a relationship to physical gold. As trust fades, the return to gold, or a digital gold like XRP, is inevitable, in my opinion. So going back to what Edo said, is there going to be an attack or something? I would say absolutely, because this gives them the reason to print more money and to continue to widen that wealth gap. They need to create a situation where people, like David said, need it. Right?
They want a crash.
Solution will already be there, but it's being orchestrated in a very peculiar manner, and unfortunately very evil, because what they're doing here is extracting all the wealth and putting it right back where, to the 1% and 2%ers. And again, you have an obligation to yourself, to your families, to make the right choices with your spending. And for me, water and money is like currency for me as well. I invest a lot of money into water, guys. You can have millions in crypto or dollars, but if you don't have a glass of water that's not touched by Bill Gates, you're in trouble. And anyways, guys, that's my thoughts. Edo, sorry to cut you off and take up your time.
Well, I wanted to answer his question. I don't think that there's going to be anything that they're going to do to intentionally prevent Trump from taking office. I think the whole thing is a distraction. I think the whole thing is a distraction, because I do believe that the puppet masters that really control this are all the central banks. I think they have a willing participant in Trump. I think it's all an illusion. I absolutely believe, along with what Versan and Vandel had said, that the system, the way it is now, has been created and orchestrated like this, intentionally, with purpose. to basically rob the world of its wealth and consolidate that within the central banks to a central bank authority, a central bank of central banks. I do believe that there is an intention behind that. I think that if the truth was really revealed, most people couldn't probably digest it, because we need psychologically to have this kind of sense that we are the captains of our own ship, that nobody else is making these decisions for us, that, but by and large, most of everything that we say, do, and think is practically controlled even now. And so, I just think it's all part of the narrative. I really do.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to say that a lot of these politicians, these tech oligarchs and billionaires, central bankers, they are in allegiance to certain individuals, and they're very much interested in preserving their wealth and increasing their wealth. So this is why they're very eager for market crashes and crises. They always seem to be in a much better place after a crisis, It's because they capitalize on it. And here's some stats from 2009 to 2020, the combined wealth of America's billionaires increased by over 80%. In 2020 alone, in 1 year, the world's 2,356 billionaires that we have on record saw their wealth increase by approximately 54% in just 1 year in 2020. You see, the ultra wealthy are eager for crashes and a crisis. They love it. They take advantage of it, and they increase their fortunes. They multiply it. So regardless who's in office, they're going to crash the economy in 2025.
Yeah,
I want to hear indicators.
I want to hear more from Edo. Edo,
go ahead, Edo.
Please finish your thought, man.
Yeah, I wanted to ask this very interesting question. So thank you, gentlemen, for your answers. And kind of answering myself, I think there would not be an attempt to prevent Trump to get in power, but rather an orchestrated plan just to generate some sort of black swan event, some sort of problem reaction solution, so they can actually, let's say, create a black swan event, and they always come with the solution. And I think we are getting very close to 1 hour. So there is a comment that I also want to address, because especially since digital assets went up 500%, I think the scam attempts went up probably 1,000%. So be very careful, because there's a lot of comments on YouTube. I don't know about your channels, but I have a very hard time deleting comments, and I get hundreds of them. I try to get rid of all of them, but it's virtually impossible. And they're gonna try to convince you on the comment sections that your crypto is not safe. You gotta send your crypto to the QFS, or you actually need to invest in some fake trading platforms. I also saw someone asking me if I run multiple X accounts. I do not. I only have one, and it's the verified one. So I want to call some attention here that is virtually useless to actually invest in digital assets if you are not taking the necessary steps to actually protect yourself by first owning cold storages, actually having your own keys, and taking all the necessary measures to actually safeguard your seed phrases. So basically not having a digital version of it. And also be very careful on the comment section, especially here on YouTube. I think since the digital assets are getting more expensive, they really have their eyes on your XRP, XLM, XDC, and multiple digital assets. And I think we're getting very close to 1 hour. Do you guys want to share some final thoughts?
Yeah, I actually have to go. My battery's going to die. Sorry, I've been putting too many emails out. My fault. Real quick, I'll keep it short. Okay. I just want to say Happy New Year to everyone, even though New Year doesn't begin until spring. I want to let the community know how much we appreciate all their support. And, this channel wouldn't be the same without any of you. So you make it so special. You really do. You are the community, not us. And I just want to send my love to each and every one of you. And I will pray that all of us will do very well, and God can look over us in 2025, because I think the world is going to get very strange. And as long as you understand that the psyops in 2025 are going to be multi-layered, and I think you'll be okay. So just continue to do your research, be vigilant, and stay strong, and just be careful, okay? There's a lot of nonsense out there, but I got to tune out, guys. Take care, and we'll talk later on, okay?
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks,
Yeah.
and I think just to say something quick before David and Vandal, you guys take over. A lot of people were asking me why we stopped doing the turning point, and it's just because on this period, I think the four of us got extremely busy. We had an overload. I think I speak for the four of us when I say that we had like 10 times more work than we had previously, not only by running multiple social media accounts, but also with consulting sessions. I also run the Alpha Lions Academy from my side. I know you guys have your own platforms. So it got extremely difficult for also the holidays affected it. So I think now the digital assets are a bit more calm. Let's say that it's more like the price is not going so wild as it was like 2-3 weeks ago. And I think from now on, we can try to come back on the turning point at least once every 2 weeks or once a week.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll do it once every... Yeah, like every 2 weeks, we'll do one. It's just as our channel grows, we are getting busier. I did 68 sessions over the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, I know.
That's a lot of talking, guys. And I have to commit like a good hour to people to help them really break things down. I don't like to give these very basic sessions. I want to go deep, and I want to talk about things and make sure we both understand each other. So I really care about my sessions. Anyways, guys, I gotta go. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk later, okay?
All right,
thank you, Bersan.
Bless you. Well, I would just say, and give Bandel the last word, but I would just say, the greatest commodity that we all have is our time. And I think it's one of the biggest things that we get deceived by. We get so focused on, the minute detail of the day-to-day that we forget that, look, we're all limited to the amount of time that we actually have. I mean, if somebody passes away, hey, that's the end of the world as far as they're concerned. And if this was the end of your world, how would you spend that time? I think I would focus on that. Don't get so focused on, all the little mundane things, and of course the day-to-day price action and things like that. Be focused on one another. That will actually keep you so grounded. It is one of the greatest deceptions of our current society, is to keep people constantly distracted. Social media, advertising, entertainment, you name it. And so, having some of those disciplines of solitude and spending time, developing relationships, and the ones that are in your life. I mean, that to me is probably the greatest source of wealth that we have, is how we spend our time. And so this new year, maybe make it a priority of, make more time for others, make more time for those things that are going to be lifelong lasting. The only thing that we can take with us in this world is one another. Otherwise, we're leaving it all behind, as far as I'm concerned. So that'd be
very well said.
Yeah,
absolutely, David. I just want to say, look, for people that are wondering, okay, all these things taking place in the world, what should I do to put myself and my family in a better position? First thing is stop watching the news. Okay. Protect your mind. We know they're poisoning your body, okay, with chemicals and food and all kinds of crap in the water, but they're also poisoning people's mind through manipulation and propaganda and controlling information. So that's the first thing you got to do. Protect your mind and be very careful who you listen to and who you surround yourself with, especially information. Secondly, to get ahead, there is no other option, ladies and gentlemen. You have to invest. Your fiat currency, whether you're in Brazil, China, United States, your currency is going to continue to burn and disintegrate. You are not going to get wealthy or get ahead financially by saving it in a bank account or a savings account. You have to have a safety nest for emergencies, paying your bills, paying your rent, doing things in the real world, because that's the system we live in today. But you have to take a portion of that and invest in something that appreciates in value. You have to do that, or you're never going to get ahead. And saving, you do not get rewarded saving in this debt-based system. You get rewarded by investing in assets that go up in value as they continue to print money. So it doesn't have to be crypto, even though crypto offers the best return on investment in the world at the moment. But it could be anything. And the key is to just take action. So I just want to say that because, a lot of people are confused. They don't know where to start, but just start investing in something, And
when we were kids, it was all about the piggy bank. Put your money in a piggy bank. They drilled it right into us, But the reality is money in the piggy bank became less and less and less. It's not that you could put more and more in, but it's worth less and less and less. So that, you could spend 5 years saving your money, and 5 years from now, you're basically right where you started because the value of what you saved doesn't purchase anything more than what you already had in the beginning.
Yes, and things will change at some point, but let's be real, ladies and gentlemen. we don't know when. We're not oracles. We don't have crystal balls. We know where things are going, but we don't know when that flip of the switch is going to happen. You don't know when things are going to flip upside down and manifest, So live in the moment, and based on the data and the direction we're going in, make wise decisions accordingly. Because as David said, your most valuable, precious resource that you will ever have is your time. You cannot buy that back. But if you invest and you sell a portion to give you that money to buy the freedom for that time, in essence, you are buying your time back to some extent. But you have to take action, basically. And
that is very good.
Yes. Yeah. So I just wanted to say, a lot of people are saying hold forever. This is stupid. All right, guys. We have a network of people all over the world that are very well off in various industries. And even David and Ido, and yes, have a percentage that you hold long term. But if you see your net worth, quadruple or is becoming life-changing at some point,
right?
Do something.
Because you don't know what tomorrow holds.
You don't know what tomorrow holds, and there's opportunity cost. I believe in utility. I know the system's collapsing and a new one's coming. Everything will be on the blockchain and digital. We know that, but you don't know when. There have people been saying this is going to happen 7 years ago, 2 cycles ago. And they're still struggling. That's opportunity cost missed. They could have had their lives changed, taking care of their families, retired your mother, your father, help your cousins out in another country or another state, have that time to be more spiritual, get closer to God, build things, give back to the community. You can't do that if you're just holding forever, trying to be greedy. I mean, ask yourself the question, are you trying to be as rich as Elon Musk? As a billionaire, are you trying to make global decisions at the table? Is that your goal? Then sure, hold everything you got, all you want for the rest of your life, hoping it will happen tomorrow. It will happen, but you don't know when.
Well, it's like the scripture where it says, what should it profit a man if he gains the whole world, loses his own soul? And what I would say is the thing I value the most are the people in my life, Vandell, Edo, of course, Verson, all the friends, the family that I have, that I love and that I know love me. We're all going to have our critics, people that think we do this too much or that too much, or people try and poke holes. That's like water off a duck's back to me, because what's most important to me are the relationships in life and what I value. What does money allow us to do? It allows us to accentuate those experiences. What's the point of accumulating wealth for the sake of accumulating it? Well, you're going to sit there like Scrooge McDuck and just count your gold coins? Good, go for it. That's what you want, Very and well so, and that's where your affirmation should really come from. It should come from the people you invest in and the ones that invest in you. You are all going to have people who are our critics, and they're going to try and, we all have our holes. We all have our cheese. That's how I kind of look at it. We all have our things that we're missing, but we have our substance too. That criticism, don't hang on to that. Let it go. Let it go easy. Let it go easy. Because the more successful you get, the more criticized you'll be. So that's cool. Let that go. But invest in people, invest in relationships. And if you make investments in finance, let it be for the purpose of increasing your experience in this life, rather than, allowing yourself to become like, miserly about it and fearful. This space is measured in fear and greed. Neither one of those emotions are healthy.
And it's reflected in the market. That's the funny thing.
Yeah. Thank you, Edo.
Thank you.
Love the words. We have about 6,000 people watching live across the multiple platforms. So I want to send a special thanks to everyone. I want to go 1 second on what David said about time. 100% agree, and be very mindful of how you spend your time, especially on these devices here. You can actually control this device and use it in a productive way that you can make money, and that can actually give you more time, or you can actually be there consuming garbage 24 hours a day. How easy it is to get distracted, especially when you are on these beta brainwaves and you start to just scroll through TikTok, through platforms that really don't have anything that can actually add you on a positive way. And that actually puts you in a slave mind frequency. So you're really going to be stressed out in the same way as you watch the media, and that makes you very reactive. So you're going to be always in this, it's not a creative frequency. It's literally a slave mind frequency. So nothing productive ever comes from that, I promise you. And second, well, thank you, everyone. We are almost 10 minutes after here, so I think it's time to close the live streaming. And hopefully we're going to be again, if not next week, in 2 weeks from now. We still don't have a final answer from that. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Happy New Year's.